So Nick Shirley with the Congress. This all wasn't designed to happen, right? Fucking this is the top trying to make laws and trying to do things, and they're trying to make it look they're helping us. This is got to be some manipulation of the law got to go on right here. Oh, he's got to give his own word to fucking do this bullshit. It's fucking. The fraud was already there to start with. Why did they need Nick Shirley? But because he made a video? It was already there. Why didn't they talk to the guy who actually got all the information, the old man that was in the video? I don't know. I don't know what that.
Thank you, Mr. Dexter, for being here. And Ms. Jennifer Larson. Ms. Larson is the founder and chief executive officer of the Holland Center for Autism, a clinic that provides services to children and young adults with autism. She started the Holland Center to serve families like hers that were not receiving adequate services and support elsewhere. Thank you, Ms. Larson, for being here today. Mr. Nick Shirley is an independent journalist. His recent investigations and videos have shed light on the scale of fraud in public benefit programs in Minnesota that are currently ongoing. And thank you, Mr. Shirley, for being here. And Mr. Dylan Hitler-Gaudet. Mr. Hitler-Gaudet is the acting vice president of policy and government affairs at the Project on Government Oversight. He probably thinks he's
really cool. How is he allowed to wear sunglasses in Congress Hall? You're not even supposed to wear hats.
POGO is a nonprofit organization that investigates alleged wrongdoing by the governor. Thank you, Mr. Hitler-Gaudet, for being here with us today. We welcome all our witnesses and thank them for appearing today. We will begin by swearing you in.
He probably thinks he looks so cool, that guy.
Would you please rise and raise your right hand?
Purple suit and fucking black sunglasses and shit.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't hear him.
Seated. Information and belief, so help you God. Thank you.
I don't hear anything.
Seated.
So they're all gonna lie.
The witnesses have all answered in the affirmative.
Like they always do in these things.
And,
just like admitting to aliens are real. Yep, the CIA is admitting to that all the time. They're just being declassified. Some of the declassifieds aren't believing anymore. And just to sell my fact, look at the Epstein files. Like, they don't want us to benefit from anything.
Question of Mr. Hitler-Gaudet, I wanted to let all members of the panel know that when you have a question for him, please say his name so he knows that you are addressing him, please.
It's supposed to be formal like that. There's 4 people in front of you. You have to. If there's one person, you can just go free for all. You have to adjust names so you know who's being spoken to.
The witnesses to know that your written testimony will be entered into the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask that you summarize your testimony in 5 minutes, and we'll begin now with Mr. Dexter. You are recognized for your 5-minute statement.
Thank you.
Like I said before with the whole Nick Shirley thing, there's going to be a few people that speak before him. I might skip through these depending on what they are. And it comes up in a minute.
Chair, members of the community, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Scott.
Why isn't the old guy that's from the videos here?
Dexter. I'm a retired law enforcement investigator with 28 years of experience. Most of it spent conducting criminal and financial fraud investigations, with experience in surveillance operations. In 2013, after retiring from law enforcement, I joined the Minnesota Department of Human Services as part of a newly created investigative unit within the Office of Inspector General. Our mission was straightforward: identify and investigate fraud within the Child Care Assistance Program, known as CCAP. I was one of the original 4 investigators hired, all of us former law enforcement professionals with backgrounds in criminal investigations. Our cases were not selected based on the name of the center, the owner, or the community it served. They were selected based solely on tips, complaints, and the amount of CCAP funding being paid out. The highest funded centers were reviewed first, and many of those centers were referred to us through the public tip line or by licensing inspectors who observed activity inconsistent with a legitimate daycare operation. What we found was deeply concerning. Many of these centers operated out of commercial spaces with windows totally covered, no visible play areas, and very few children ever present.
So why does it have to go to Congress like this? Why wasn't there on the state level arrests? Simple as that. Why hasn't the police force moved? Why hasn't the state done anything about it? And now it has to go to a federal thing? What are they trying to pass now? What is trying to be placed on this thing? What is the weird thing they're going to push on us through this?
Through surveillance, data collection, and review of attendance and billing records, we repeatedly documented patterns of overbilling, non-execution, and review of attendance and billing records, We repeatedly documented patterns of overbilling, non-existent attendance, and in some cases, children being signed in for hours they were never actually at the center. Our investigative process was thorough and methodical. We collected licensing and billing data, installed covert surveillance cameras, reviewed hours of video, identified parents and
They spied on a bunch of people, and some of them are considered American citizens.
employees, and calculated estimated overpayments based on actual attendance.
Through a branch that's not considered the actual, police or something like that.
Completed cases were then turned over to the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension for search warrants, interviews, arrests, and potential prosecution. As our investigations progressed, we noticed a trend. Many of the centers receiving the highest levels of CCAP funding were owned and operated by Somali individuals, and the families served were predominantly Somali. This was not the basis for selecting cases, but it did become the basis for accusations against us. We were labeled as racially biased, despite the fact that our case selection was driven entirely by funding data. An outside review was launched into our investigative practices. We were questioned about how we selected centers and how we conducted surveillance. Following that review, new restrictions were placed on our work, including mandatory panel reviews before we could move forward with investigations. Investigators were also pulled from conducting new or current investigations in order to enter data from all previous complaints received by DHS into a newly created database, a process that took nearly a year to complete. These changes significantly hindered our ability to do our jobs effectively. Ultimately, in 2019, I chose to retire because the investigative process had become so constrained that meaningful work was no longer possible. Through collaboration with federal agencies, including the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, Homeland Security, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, we learned that millions of dollars in cash from the Somali community was being flown out of the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport by Somali couriers. At one point, nearly $70 million had been documented leaving the country halfway through a single year. Although we could not prove it.
Why didn't the Fed stop that? That's wire transfer. It's illegal wiring and shit. What the fuck?
That the cash was obtained fraudulently, we strongly suspected that it was. We also encountered situations where federal partners were prevented from opening cases due to concerns about political sensitivities surrounding the Somali community and the refugee resettlement program. These decisions had real consequences, allowing fraud to continue unchecked. Throughout our work, we identified several loopholes that made CCAP highly vulnerable to fraud. Centers were allowed to bill for the full authorized hours, even when children were present for only minutes. Billing records could be submitted up to 30 days later, creating opportunities for manipulation. Attendance records were handwritten, unreliable, and often incomplete. And despite our recommendations, no biometric attendance systems, no electronic submission requirements, and no state-installed security cameras were ever implemented. Chair
we just monitor all your data because it's plenty to go off of. What the fuck?
And members,
and your bank
the purpose of my testimony is not to cast blame on any community. It is to highlight systemic weaknesses that allowed large-scale fraud to occur and to emphasize the need for stronger safeguards, better oversight, and investigative processes that are allowed to function without political interference. Thank you for your time and your commitment to ensuring accountability within publicly funded programs, and I am prepared to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dexter. And now we're going to recognize Mr. Hitler-Gaudet for your 5 minutes of opening statement.
Mr. Hitler, goddammit. What does this look?
Chairman Biggs.
Why is he allowed to wear glasses? He's not supposed to. He's probably not good at lying.
Ranking Member McBath and members of the subcommittee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today on the important issues of preventing fraud and protecting taxpayer dollars. My name is Dylan Hetler-Gaudet, and I'm the Acting Vice President of Policy and Government Affairs at the Project on Government Oversight. We are a nonpartisan, independent watchdog that promotes a more accountable, transparent, and effective federal government. We view it as our mission to combat abuse of power and corruption in the federal government, which includes working on rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. The unfortunate truth is that fraud in government programs is a fact of life.
Why is he stuttering? What blackmail did they have to get him to get here to speak?
Since the United States government has existed, fraud in government has also existed. For much longer than that, in fact, For as long as human beings have been organizing ourselves into societies and building institutions to govern those societies, there have always been those who will seek to take advantage. This is a harsh but real truth related to the human condition, related to our fundamentally fallen and flawed
What is with his
natures.
speech? Why is he doing that? He sounds like he's under duress. This doesn't sound like a normal fucking, like, congressional hearing. What the fuck's with him?
That
The glasses
said,
are definitely to hide something. It looks like puffy eyes, like he's crying.
still incumbent upon every one of us to do what we can to prevent fraud and to hold perpetrators of fraud accountable. This is especially true when the fraud implicates hard-earned taxpayer dollars and critical public programs and services. This is true whether we're talking about fraud in the context of the Feeding Our Future program or any other program in Minnesota, whether we're talking about welfare fraud in Mississippi, which involved the participation of a world-famous Hall of Fame NFL quarterback. This is true whether we're talking about fraud in the context of it being perpetrated by large multinational defense companies.
He's going off topic. What is he, like... This is going to be a bunch of bullshit, I mean. I know I'm already in for a bunch of bullshit.
Multi-billion-dollar contract they have with the Defense Department.
Stay on topic,
The
bro.
point here is that fraud and the abuse of taxpayer dollars is not related to any particular geographic, demographic, or other
Oh my
boundary
god,
or
the Rush server
characteristic.
people are doing this, yes, but not all of
But
them.
why do these things happen so much? Mostly they are caused by deep structural flaws, gaps, and weaknesses in our system of government.
Oh, what a pussy.
They're also driven by recalcitrance and resistance to change on the part of federal agencies. To put it shortly, fraud is a systemic problem and it requires systemic solutions.
Is it a systemic problem? I don't
So
think
what
it
are
is. I
these
think it's
solutions?
only here because of immigration.
I'm pleased to share a few of
Not
them
really
with
systemic.
you today. We
It's
must
a
first look
migratory
at
fucking thing.
watchdogs, critical sources of information,
Gotta stop my car soon.
and practitioners of oversight from within the federal government itself. I'm specifically talking about inspectors general, the Government Accountability Office, and whistleblowers. Rather than attacking, firing, undermining, and intimidating these individuals and entities as this administration and its allies have done, we must strengthen, preserve, and protect them. We must enact reforms to make sure that IGs and GAOs
He's
can
all over
perform
Hearts Alliance
their
he's doing
duties
too, I can
effectively and
tell.
independently.
Someone told him to say all this.
And we must add additional safeguards to make sure that whistleblowers can blow the whistle without fear of reprisal or retaliation. We must also take a long, hard look at the architecture currently in place for how we track, monitor, analyze, and assess federal funding. To put it bluntly, that architecture is broken. Key resources like USAspending.gov are in desperate need of overhaul and modernization. We need to enhance and
That's what
improve
they're
the
doing.
quantity.
It's a digital swap. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna make us. This is another thing to probably get us on real IDs or something stupid. I can already see where it's going.
The quality, timeliness, and integrity of the data and information we collect on federal funding. We need to promote more accountability, transparency, and compliance mechanisms within the chain of spending for federal funding. If we don't do this, we will never have a good grasp on where funding is going, where it's ending up, who is being helped by it, who is being missed by it, and what the ultimate impact is. Lastly, we must enact robust reforms and vigorous enforcement to crack down on corruption, cronyism, and conflicts of interest, which turbocharge waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. The presidential pardon is an acute example of this, with each of the last two administrations using the pardon power inappropriately to pardon convicted fraudsters. We must also promote reforms to crack down on the revolving door between agencies and industries, and to head off pay-to-play politics, all of which distort and corrupt decisions like the award of federal contracts. The takeaway here is simple. Focusing on individual salacious, scandalous examples of fraud is akin to looking at the symptoms and not looking at the disease or the root causes of the disease.
See what they're doing? They're using a whole bunch of like phrasing and shit.
The Project on Government Oversight stands ready, willing, and able to work with anyone here who wants to work on root causes and systemic solutions so that we can actually get our hands around waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption in the federal government.
Why is he so stuttery?
Thank you for having me here today, and I look forward to answering
This is under duress body language.
your questions.
Like he's not in it.
Thank you, Mr. Hedlergott.
Now
And
finally,
I just,
Nick. Maybe
I
can
forgot
get
to
in before I
mention,
leave.
when you get about 10 seconds left, I'll just tip that so everybody will know that as well. So,
He's gonna be
Mr.
a
Shirley,
driver.
you're recognized for your opening statement.
Awesome. I'm here today to speak on behalf of all hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens here inside of the United States.
You're speaking to the opposite people, and we know who.
I've helped bring to light widespread fraud that's happening inside our nation, and we the people have had enough of our hard-earned money going towards fraudsters as if it's no big deal. As I speak here, I want to ask everyone a question. How much do we trust when we pay our taxes it's going to benefit our nation? People erupted during the Boston Tea Party over just a few percentages as they believed they were being taxed without representation. Nowadays, we have the representation, but do we trust our representatives? My name is Nick Shirley, and I made a 41-minute video that I posted on platforms like X and YouTube. My video received over 100 million views, and it created instant change within our government. As the federal government launched investigations in departments such as Health and Human Services froze over $185 million in child care funding until businesses can prove they are legitimate businesses. I actually became aware of the fraud that was happening in Minnesota in
He made a video
June of 2025 as I was there for a separate video, and Minnesotans started reaching out to me asking me if I was making a video on the fraud. I said, well, what fraud? And this lady, she was a real estate agent, and she says, well, I'm having
all of that. Remember,
a hard time selling my properties
Go rewatch the video.
because people are
Go by
curious
their
about
narrative
these
and what's the
assisted
actual-
livings
what
that
he's
are
saying
popping
now.
up next door to some of the houses that we're buying, or the home health care clinics that are popping up, and we don't know who's next to these houses that we're trying to sell. And I said, well, I'm not going to come and make a video if I don't have any proof. So therefore, I left Minnesota, and I continued to look for fraud in the best way I could.
by
And as I was
harassing
getting
people.
my own information, a man by the name of David reached out to me, and he said, hey, I have been investigating
Where's David?
fraud for years now. I have been driving by these child care centers. I've never seen a
I questioned why he was looking at child centers. Remember, he said in the video, he's like, "Oh, I just kept looking at these child centers and not noticing any kids." I'm like, "Why are you looking at child centers?"
single child, and I have received the information from the state of Minnesota as to how much money these places are receiving. I said, great, let me come to Minnesota and we'll make this video about potential fraud that was taking place inside of Minnesota. We go to a daycare, and
How many people would show up to these daycares and go to put their kid in? Because you can't just make them just Somalis.
instantly
That's
surprised by
crazy.
what we see. We arrived and it was an industrialized building, and there was 2 daycares registered at that building. And the first thing I noticed is all the windows are blacked out, and there's no footprint
Like, not even. Where are the police? Because the police should have seen this and been like, "There's a grow up going on in there. There's something shady going
in
on."
the snow of any children. There's no playgrounds.
Did you smell?
And there's no footprints in the snow of any children. There's no playgrounds or
There was no
anything
snow
that
anywhere,
would make
really.
it look
There
like
was
this is
snow.
a
No, I don't think there's
childcare.
snow in that
But
video.
above me, a sign
something
read,
like everywhere, but it was
open
always
7 a.m.
cloud.
to 10 p.m. But there was nobody there. The doorbell did not even work. And then we continued to go to other daycares.
This is like, think of the kids thing. Bring it up all the time. You're going to use the children who really aren't even real children. This is fraud. There's no children.
And we noticed the same pattern.
Think
No
of the kids,
children,
though.
blacked out
What
windows.
kids? The imaginary black kids?
And
that are
one
supposed to be there?
daycare, a learning center,
Learn.
spelled Quality Learning Center
They just.
instead of Quality.
Why not bring up the one that, if any of them, I know luring got out, but no, the other one that was, they didn't even change their fucking sign, supposedly, and it's the same LLC name they had as before they got in trouble, but yet they said they changed it.
Learning Center. They had received $1.9 million, yet with that $1.9 million, they could not even spell Leering right on their sign. Governor Walz has said
I don't think they're making their fucking signs.
he's been fighting fraud in Minnesota since 2019 and said the buck stops with him. However,
Why didn't the sign company fucking call that and be like, don't you mean learning?
how long would it take for you to notice $1 million leaving your bank account?
School leering. It's a weird combination of words, too, that keep throwing out there. Why are they looking at schools and school leering? Why are you peering at schools like that?
And not
I know,
knowing
it's
where
a-
it's going. That's essentially what
All
had been
crazy.
happening in Minnesota for
It's odd.
years as billions of dollars have been misplaced. And meanwhile, while people like Governor Tim Walz call people like me a white supremacist, delusional conspiracy theorist, he actually decided to drop out of re-election because I believe, of how deep and extensive this fraud is. Thank you very much. Since my reporting, the HHS department froze over $185 million, and to this day, not a single business has been able to prove proof of legitimacy. How fast would you be proving that you are a legitimate business if you have children to actually feed and to take care of? You'd be...
Like I said, they've been putting this on the back burner, just like the Jewish town, or what was the one before that one? There was something before that one. Like, so much stupid shit happens after and after. It's just, there's fraud going on every. Oh, it was the fucking hotels, migrant hotels, and then there's the other ones. They have them all over the place. It's just, they know these things have been going on. They can solve the problem. They don't have to make a spectacle out of it. They already know about it. So someone's getting paid from the top down, and he's not pointing out anything. This is just someone who's been sitting out, like, oh, he's a young kid. He wouldn't know anything about it. No, he did not find this case. You'd think this kid found this case.
Sending in that paperwork instantly. I made this video to document the widespread fraud that has been taking place, as I truly believe all fraud is bad. And
retarded.
People like me,
Tyler,
my generation, we're sick of
that video I made the other day. He's like, show me the wallet, the Yid says to him. And he makes a joke about, and they cut this thing. Guarantee you. He's like...
seeing
all,
tax dollars
he has
go
photos of
towards
him in
fraud.
fucking Israel.
We just want to have the same opportunities that our
the wall.
fathers and our grandparents had. And when you see people making millions of dollars by committing fraud, it upsets everybody from all age demographics. And so I hope today we can have a good conversation, and I think we can all agree that fraud is bad and that fraud is fraud. And I wish the best for our country, and I think that's what needs to be happening, is to crack down on all forms of fraud.
He needs to drink some water. You hear like the rise of his mouth.
Thank you for having me, and God bless the USA.
You hear it?
Happening is to crack down on all forms of fraud. So thank you
The fuck is that? Is he like a fucking ant person behind a fucking thing? God damn, what's the clicking?
for having me, and God bless the USA.
Yo, what's with all the clicking?
I wish the best for our country, and I think that's what needs to be happening, is to crack down on all forms of fraud. So thank you for having me, and God bless the USA.
Thank you, Mr. Shirley. And
I'm
now I
pausing right
recognize
here for
Ms.
now.
Larson.
No, where was I?
Now I recognize Ms. Larson for your 5-minute opening statement.
Chairman, Ranking Member, and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak today on this issue. My name is Jennifer Larson. I'm the founder and CEO of Holland Center in Minnesota. I've been an autism provider for over 20 years and started the organization for my son. I built Holland Center because families with children like mine were desperate for help, desperate for services and stability, desperate for somewhere they could trust their child would be supported and helped, not sent home on a bad day, not babysat in a classroom and forgotten. We serve the children that don't succeed in public school settings. What started as a small program grew over 2 decades into 4 locations that families rely on, not just for therapy, but for hope, routine, and survival. This work is a labor of love for me. Just like me, there are providers all over the state laboring with love to help these children. And this week, Holland and other programs all over Minnesota are collapsing. Not because we committed fraud, but because a crime ring was allowed to operate inside Minnesota's service system, and the government's clumsy response is now destroying legitimate, long-standing providers and devastating families that we serve. Families come to Holland, they do not have a backstop. Their children often receive 30 or more hours of therapy a week. These are not an extravagance, these are medically necessary. These children learn to communicate, regulate their emotions, reduce dangerous behaviors, and function in daily life. For many parents, therapy determines if they can work. Consistent staff and therapy prevents severe behaviors and regression. Structured care keeps children and their siblings safe. When services disappear, families do not just simply...
They're doing that thing I said. They're doing the think of the kids thing. This is retarded. They're blowing smoke up people's eyes. They're trying to pass a bill for something. They're doing something here in this state. They're trying to do something. Or on a federal level, whatever. Yeah, federal level. What the fuck?
Adjust. They face a crisis. For more than 2 decades, Holland has served hundreds of children year after year, employed hundreds of clinicians and staff, operated under yearly on-site audits, inspections, and
I think her time's already up.
documentation oversight. Delivered real services to real children every day. We have always complied with everything the system required. Yet, within the last month, the state has withheld over $400,000 in Medicaid funds for my own program, and that number grows every single day. I had to infuse my personal funds to survive these weeks, but can't do that any longer without payment. Let me be clear. We are a fee-for-service industry. When we can't pay our staff, we lose our staff and children lose care. Families do not lose appointments. They lose the people they trust.
Where's the money they have saved? Usually businesses have retainer money too. But like at the same time, yeah, they put a complete freeze on everybody. That doesn't seem right either, but like this seems like a push.
What happened in Minnesota
Cop
had
out.
nothing to do with the ethical, long-standing autism providers. What did happen was organized criminal networks that exploited autism services by opening fake centers, billing for children that did not exist, billing for services never delivered, and stealing millions of taxpayer dollars in the process. These are not minor compliance issues.
What is this dude doing over here? Just like getting in her face.
They are
Fucking
criminal
weird.
enterprises. Families trusted that the government was
But what the fuck
protecting
is
the
that
integrity
shit,
of
bro?
the
That's,
system.
that's weird.
It failed.
What
Now,
is he
instead
doing?
of doing the obvious thing and targeting criminal
Shave your head
actors,
too. It's so thin.
the response has been to freeze everyone's payments. That decision does not punish the criminals. It punishes innocent children and families. As Medicaid payments are delayed due to prepayment review by an insurance company that is in the business of denying claims, providers are reducing hours, cutting staff, and starting to close. Families are scrambling for alternatives that don't exist. Children are regressing. Parents are leaving jobs to care for their disabled children.
Oh,
Autism therapy
taking care of your own kid. It's such a bad thing.
cannot be caused
It's not
without
a douche, but like,
consequences.
come on, man.
Loss of services can erase years of progress in weeks, and abrupt disruption of services can cause lifelong consequences in these children. This is not abstract harm. It is daily trauma for families already carrying an extraordinary burden. The simple solution to the problem: send the criminals to jail and allow trusted providers with decades of clean audits, verified ownership structures to continue providing prescribed ethical therapy, and go back to paying them what.
How this seems like a real like counter thing to point it out, and this all happens as of it, and then like, what are they gonna push?
What we've earned and resume paying
What are they
them on
asking
time.
for here?
I built Holland for 20 years.
Because they're all over the place where they want.
Families built their lives around the care that we provide. All of that is risk of destruction today, not by fraud, but by clumsy government response that failed to distinguish between criminals and caregivers. It treats children with
The
disabilities.
gentlelady will suspend. We've got a photographer there. We allow photographers in here, but not between the panel of the witnesses and the members. You will please move.
Okay,
Photographer, please move.
thank you.
Like right now.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
All of that is at the risk of destruction. Sorry, can I continue?
Yeah, please continue.
Not by fraud, but the clumsy government response that
Oh, she's
fails
not
to
crying
distinguish
anymore.
between criminals and caregivers. It treats children with disabilities as acceptable collateral damage. Fraud must be stopped and criminals prosecuted. I'm a taxpayer. I live in
now she just
Minnesota. This
smiles.
is disgusting.
She's really good at her
But
improv.
families and children should never pay the price for government failure. Thank you.
Oh, there's no more tears behind there. It's amazing. Said,
We
roll
will
my
now
eyes at
proceed
it.
under the 5-minute rule with questions. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Tiffany, for 5 minutes.
Pretty sure this was a
Thank you,
pause.
Mr. Chairman.
Make them
Besides
compose
the work
themselves.
Mr. Shirley has done, I want to recognize Powerline, who has done
Who's this dude
yeoman's
in the
work
end?
exposing
Fucking
this over
looking
the
at her
last
face.
decade, what has
She's
happened.
talking.
And I just want to say, Ms. Larson, I live in northern Wisconsin. There's an autism school that was started in my community. Where did we visit when we wanted to start that a decade ago? We came to Minnesota, where you have been leaders in having good autism programs.
God, now
And I think about the tremendous fraud that has gone on in nutrition programs, housing programs.
Set
But is
dressing right
there
now.
anything more heinous than abusing an autism program?
I can't imagine. It's so hard to believe that people are faking the children have autism and stealing money from the government. When I'm sitting here with my 25-year-old
why is she getting more speak time than all these guys? And this is just supposed to be their intro things.
non-speaker, and now
Oh, he's slow.
children like my son aren't going to have services because they stole money from the government and faked these things.
I'm
And
being an
it's just-
asshole. But at the same time, no, I know. Is he really retarded? Like, it's all a set, man. This is all acting. They put him in his big boy suit, They got him paraded around. Why do they have him there? Should she have no one else? That's so unprofessional and not usually allowed. Why would they keep him with him? They're using him as like a legit like propaganda tool. He's their little Nikolai Pavlov. It's fucking retard McGee. Like,
It is, like I said, disgusting.
this is some
What's
fucking
going on right now?
what's eating Gilbert Grape
What are the
acting
families
shit, bro.
that you're serving? What are they saying?
They're scared.
What are they doing?
Everybody's scared. There are centers that are programs that have already shut down. Staff are leaving. I this week asked my staff.
See, she sounds like
who
an
will take
emotion. You see her emotions just drop, and then she starts talking. Like, it's all an act. This is all an act. This is all an
paid
act.
leave because we can't keep going like this.
Where's Nick's part? He's supposed to be talking.
Like
to
I
this.
said, I'm
Where's Nick?
400,000 plus in debt now, and
Holy
I'm not
shit,
sure
dude,
these are
what
going
the
to get
fuck?
paid back. I went to a bank and they wouldn't back the receivable because they said
seem
that's
like
not a
he's talking that
receivable.
much.
If it's prepayment review, you may not get it.
And Ms. Larson, none of this would have happened if the fraud did not occur. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Mr. Dexter, could have something been done about this earlier?
Yes, as I stated in my opening
Like I said
testimony,
too, if they knew about it then, why didn't it get done? They're blacking out windows in daycares. No red flags were made by police officers or anything. Like, there's something going on. Like, this is all being pulled out their asses now. It's like they're just trying to light some shit on fire so you don't look at the bigger fire they're setting behind you.
in the years that I worked there, we identified how
the
fraud
big
was
deals?
occurring,
There's
the
something-
loopholes that existed, and we
What were some of the warning signs, Mr. Dexter?
well,
Oh my God,
the
Willie,
fact
so-
that part of our
When do Congress members really get that excited and talk like this? And all like,
job was to go and
this.
collect attendance records. We would find attendance records that were either incomplete, non-existent. Obviously, there were times.
So my shit froze. But let's. Okay, pick it up.
That were either incomplete,
Computer's been having some weird issues lately. It's
non-existent.
annoying.
Obviously, there were times we found them to be fabricated because they were given to us way later, and the same with billing records. They were allowed 30 days after the end of the billing period to submit billing records, so they were not immediately available to us, and it kind of allowed overpayments or double payments to be overlooked. So we had the attendance record issue. We had the fact that there was no way to verify who was signing the children in and out. No way to verify what times those children were signed in and out.
Could I do a follow-up here? In Wisconsin, we learned
If that was the case already, there should have been like, what is it, CFC or something. Not CFC, fucking DCF and shit like that, or DSF, what the fuck they call it nowadays. Because, like, there's kids involved. Why were there kids involved? There's kids involved in these things. This is, like I said, when I was watching the video, there was fucking, like, it screamed fucking child trafficking if anything was true. I'm like, where are the kids? You can't just have no kids. That can't be the fraud. You have to have kids. Someone would have caught on way sooner. And that goes back to where I was saying before. This is all a skit. This is all, there's something going on here, and it's not even just this. Like, some of it, most of it's probably real, and it's just, this is just being used to make a law. That's
this month
the
that
magic trick.
Ibrahimia Diop, a Minneapolis school
What is the law they're
finance
trying to get?
boss,
What are they
placed
trying to
on
pass?
leave for
Fraud's already a
failing to
thing.
submit required financial paperwork with the Minneapolis School District and for signing questionable contracts linked to the Somali fraud scandal, was hired by the Milwaukee Public School System as a deputy superintendent at a salary of $240,000 a year. Do you think it wise? Might that be a warning sign that this person was involved, may have been involved with fraud in Minneapolis? Shouldn't they be concerned in Wisconsin that that they're hiring someone like that?
Well, if somebody that they hire has a past history and practice of doing that type of stuff, I would be very leery of it
Leery?
occurring again, or that being the basis that they're hired.
So Governor Evers,
I know he's trying to do that, but like, why is that word coming up right now? Like,
federal
I know
audits
he's
of
trying
our
some
food
weird
stamp
change of
and
words in this whole
Medicaid
thing.
programs, and he also vetoed 4 auditor positions in a recent budget. Do you think that is also a warning sign?
Yes, if it's preventing,
Or or ill-advised? Would that be a better way to pose the question?
Yeah, if it prevents the oversight and the ability to audit and look at the records to make sure, can have a check and balance system, I think that'd be very unwise, because again, that allows fraud to occur.
Because, Mr. Shirley, what is happening in Minnesota, it could be happening throughout the United States, isn't
It is, and I said that in another video, my video. It's happening in Boston. Any blue state probably has it. Even red states where their blue cities are doing it. Where we have a lot of immigrants, they just pick just different immigrants. It's not them who do the scam. They just use them as the shield. It's the politicians running money and shit, and probably moving kids and doing other weird shit.
that correct?
Correct.
If there's one thing we've learned or leered, as they say in Minneapolis, isn't it possible that this is happening everywhere?
Yes, I believe it is.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Didn't say that in your
Gentleman yields. I
video.
now recognize the
Seemed
ranking
pretty
member of the
shocked.
whole committee, Mr. Raskin.
With
for
little
his
Johnny
5
with a
minutes of
fucking gay thing
Thank
saying.
you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank all the witnesses for your excellent testimony. Mr. Hedler-Gaudet, the administration has systematically undermined government oversight. The president has fired more than a dozen inspectors general, not for any cause, but seemingly just in retaliation for doing their jobs and to block unwanted investigations. President Trump has defunded the Council of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency. He's removed independent leadership at the Office of Special Counsel and Office of Government Ethics, blockading whistleblowers and numerous investigations. What is your assessment, Mr. Hedler-Gaudet, of the Trump administration's apparent systematic opposition to internal oversight mechanisms in the federal government?
Thank you, Ranking Member Raskin. My assessment is that
Hold up. Okay, back.
the last year or so has been one of the most anti-oversight, anti-accountability periods that I've witnessed in our federal government. And I think the things you laid out, as well as others, are the sort of proof in the pudding there. And I think, speaking of things that should be giving us pause and raising red flags, that should all be giving us serious pause and raising serious red flags.
Is he blind? What's wrong with his eyes? Is that why he's wearing the goggles, the glasses? Because that eye is going over there.
It's about
It's like
how
looking at the other
seriously
guys. The other one's
people
going
who claim
straight.
to take oversight.
Yo, why is it going
accountability,
so far over? It's like he's having a fucking stroke. Is he blind?
how seriously do they actually take it?
There's been a lot of attention
fuck?
given to Donald Trump's extraordinary use of the pardon power, as in the pardon of violent insurrectionists and cop beaters. But there's also been a forgiveness of $1.5 billion in restitutionary fines that various people had to pay. And a lot of them are fraudsters. The DOJ in Trump's first term brought bank fraud and tax evasion charges against reality TV stars Todd and Julie Chrisley. They were convicted in 2022. They owed more than $22 million in restitution to taxpayers and to their victims. But then Trump suddenly, inexplicably pardoned them and forgave all of the money that they were supposed to be paying back to their victims. Todd Chrisley bragged publicly about his get-out-of-jail-free card, jubilantly exclaiming, "The feds got effed." Let me give you one other example. Trump, on April 23rd, issued a pardon for Paul Walchuk, a former nursing home exec who pleaded guilty to multiple tax crimes. What he was doing was taking millions of dollars from the nurses and orderlies and doctors who
giving
worked for
the
him.
position? What's
His
going on here?
facilities took more than $10 million that way, instead of giving it to the IRS for their
They're trying to pass something.
taxes.
Okay, I'm hold up.
You
Yeah, I'm not going to sit through all that. Hold up. I'm going to skim through this because this is like watching fucking paint dry.
pay-to-play
Okay,
pardon
here we go,
system
here we
works.
go. So how
What
yeah,
does this do to our efforts
They're
to
trying to push
root
it.
out fraud and corruption systematically in the government and in crimes in different industries?
I think it provides a perverse incentive structure. I opened my statement by saying that we all have an obligation and a responsibility to do what we can to prevent fraud and to hold perpetrators of fraud accountable. But that last bit, holding a perpetrator of fraud accountable, perhaps via conviction, doesn't mean much if all one needs to do is contribute to the rights Uber PAC or attend the right fundraiser, and suddenly that accountability and that conviction is wiped away, including the financial restitution you mentioned. So those kinds of actions are
There's already crimes like that. Conspiracy covers that and a bunch of other things. Like, what are they trying to push?
direct cross purposes with any effort to promote a broader, more systemic approach to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you very much, and I yield back.
Easy. Audit them every
Recognize the
year.
Chairman of the full committee, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dexter, let me make sure we got this right. You get tips and complaints, whistleblowers or others come to you and tell you something's not right at these child care centers in your state that are getting all kinds of taxpayer money. Is that right? That's how it started?
That's correct.
Okay. And then
You're
you
trying
go
to
and do
push
your
something.
work. You got 28 years experience investigating things, and specifically in the crime and financial fraud area. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you go out and find out these child care centers, there aren't any kids. No kids are there. I mean, there's some, but there's like, you don't see the playgrounds. You don't see any kids at a place where they're supposed to be helping children. And then you also find out most of them are run by Somali individuals. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And then you make some recommendations. You said, here's what we should do. I think you put this on page 2 of your testimony. You said there's some basic things you should do. No, you said they didn't have biometric attendance system. They should do that. They should have electronic submission requirements. They need security cameras. You made some recommendations.
See, there it is. They're trying to push that fucking. They want to push that digital ID. I said it way in the beginning of the video. Fuck, there it is, right there. They want to push
Yes.
things on people.
And then what happened?
Nothing.
They ignored your recommendations, but it didn't stop there, did it? They ignored your recommendations.
This is what they do. They find ways to seed it into things, like so we can't get away from it. So it becomes a thing. Like people losing their jobs during COVID because of people not getting shots, like stupid shit like that. Like this is how they get that in there. They hide the little thing under like the guides of Somalis are doing all this shit, or all the other states are having. We know how to root out fraud and get it out of the country. Why the fuck isn't it just gone now?
They called you a racist, right?
Correct.
Typical left. I always say the
See?
left will tell a lie. Big media will report it. You tell the truth, they call you racist. Exactly what happened here. So they ignore your recommendations. They call you a racist, but it even got worse than that. If you can imagine. They started investigating you. Is that right?
Yes, we were interviewed by an outside firm for a report given to the Office of Legislative Auditor.
And what did that report look like? What did they say? They call you a racist? What did the report say?
The report basically questioned our investigative tactics, looked at how our unit was managed.
Even though you had 28 years experience in this particular area.
It sounds like someone's on the take, and they're trying to, show they have it in. They're just top dogs getting paid to shoo you away.
Area tips and whistleblowers came to you, even though that was the whole catalyst for doing this.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And the end result is what? The end result is Miss Larson, who's actually helping people. She
Correct.
Why is
suffers,
she
and the people
smiling?
she
Like-
helps suffers. Is that right, Miss Larson? Not to mention the fact that taxpayers are getting ripped off, but the people who do good work, who actually help people, you suffered.
The disabled are paying for the money stolen.
Yeah. And why do you think all this is the case? So, I mean, all this brings me to seems to be a typical pattern, but in the end, you got to ask why. Why was, when you point out what's going on, you have good people doing good work who suffer, the taxpayers are getting ripped off. Someone's got to ask,
Because the
well,
cultural
why
zeitgeist
did
is
they
fucking
take the,
messed
not
up.
follow your
Everybody thinks
recommendations, call you
racist thoughts or
racist,
whatever the fuck they
investigate you
think.
instead
What
of
the
just
fuck?
fixing the
Everybody's
problem? Why
retarded.
did
They
you-
care about
What
stupid
could be the
shit.
answer? Anyone want to hazard it? Mr. Shirley, you want to hazard a guess?
Like, what do you want, dude? We live through the This is what they're trying right now. It's so hard to make everybody hate everything. So they want us to rile up. They want us so fucking angry to fucking just start rioting in the streets over nothing.
Yes. Why that's the case?
Well, they simply use that as a deflection technique to make you not want to speak out against
Duh!
fraud.
No fucking
See,
shit,
it's
Sherlock.
politics now. You think it's politics, Mr. Dexter?
It's called CR fucking
Yes, I do.
T.
Yeah, the people at the top, like, well, we don't want to do this. We don't want to be called racist. In fact, we found that out a week ago in a hearing where we were looking at this Feeding Our Future program. We found out they actually shut that program off for a while. They said, time out, something's not right here. They found the same kind of things you found, Mr.
Everybody's so goddamn past this bullshit, dude. Why was it? Like, this is what I'm saying. Whoever's rating right now, they don't know how to keep up with the times and shit like they used to, I guess, for their psyops. Because, like, this is ridiculous now.
Dexter. And they said, we're going to stop payment. And then it restarted. And the reason it restarted is because they threatened a racial discrimination lawsuit against the authorities there in Minnesota. So, okay, forget about the fact that when we do this, we restart the money, we're going to hurt good people like Ms. Larson and the people she helps and rip off the taxpayers. We're going to do it all for politics. And we also found, interestingly enough, the Attorney General in Minnesota had a meeting with the key folks in this particular program, and then they find out a couple weeks later they start sending him campaign contributions. I think it's
there
politics.
You go. It's all it is, and where do the campaign contributions go? This is right into her pocket, basically. Buys whatever the fuck she wants. Like,
I think it's politics driving it all. And that's why it's appropriate we're investigating here at the congressional level. That's why it's appropriate the Department of Justice has put in place a specific individual to focus on this, not only in Minnesota, but around the country.
Front-facing business. That was perfect. We're putting tons of cash.
I talked too much. Anyone else want to throw out?
The
I'll
shadiest
give
of
Mr.
people
Shirley and Ms.
probably would
Larson
throw
a
it.
chance to say anything if you want. If not,
From like
I'll
crazy
yield 28
drug
seconds.
dealers to fucking just someone just trying to hide money to easy laundering business.
I yield 20 seconds. The remaining my time.
They take the money.
Thank you.
They
So,
put
Mr.
it
Hemingway,
towards clean cash. They can take other
Would it
cash.
surprise you that
Say it's
Joe
donations.
Biden issued pardons to someone named Crundell,
You're just donating
who
to
had
us.
the largest municipal
Charity.
fraud in the country's history, and had a restitution amount of $53.7 million that was never paid following the commutation? Would that surprise you, sir?
Oh, that would not surprise me. And actually, in my written statement, I outline how some pardons under
Whatever he took, it really kicked in since the beginning.
the last administration, the Biden administration, they also fall into the same pattern of pardoning convicted fraudsters.
His eyes are doing some wild
I'm in
shit.
agreement with you there.
Yeah, thank you. And without objection, that time's expired, so without objection, Mr. Klein will be permitted to participate in today's hearing for the purpose of questioning the witness if a member yields him time for that purpose. And now we're going to go to
I don't know why I
Mr.
wasn't
Moore,
there. My bad.
Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All this talk about pardons and the ultimate shyster. One of them was Hunter Biden. He got pardoned.
Okay, I'm so sick of watching these motherfuckers talk. Like that. I'm just gonna get the next part. This guy. Now she's smiling. She was crying before. Like, fuck off. Where's the next part? Right here.
The same expectations that we do.
So maybe it's politics.
Yeah.
Mr. Shirley, now I guess investigative journalists are known as right-wing social media influencers. So can you confirm how many daycare centers you personally visited in Minnesota during your investigation?
During that first video, we went to around 7.
How did you select those facilities?
I'm telling you, they didn't shoot that all in one day. If he's gonna say that, he's lying. I'm telling you, they shot that throughout a couple days, all those scenes.
You said earlier footprints in the snow, but how was it that you identified those facilities to go to initially?
So the man David in the video, he had the daycares with the CCAP funding, and we just simply drove around Minnesota and around Minneapolis area.
Took a lot of courage to do that, I would imagine. Probably more so now than what it was when you initially did it. 100 million views, you said.
Yes, over 140 million views.
See, they're flexing too. It's weird, bro.
So what was Mr. David's background? How did you connect with him, and how did he call you, or did you reach out?
He simply is just a man in Minnesota who has a passion for his city, and he's been seeing.
No, someone's rabbi fucking heard of him, and they everything was already going on. Someone knew someone that was going on. I said it during the video too. There's like a perfect human trafficking kind of like thing going on.
Fraud taking place for years, and out of all the thousands of messages I get on Instagram and other platforms, I just happened to read his, and he provided me the information, so I gave him a phone call.
And then from there, just went to those different facilities. What was probably the most interesting thing as you were doing this? I think I saw the video. We watched it, and it looked like there was a number of facilities like in the same building.
Yes. So in one building, there was, I believe, 3 daycares, and there was no children. And they were all receiving CCAP funding for separate daycares. There's one daycare we went to that one day it was closed by the government, and then that same day it was reopened underneath another name. And they both received CCAP funding.
I bet, Ms. Larson, they probably weren't getting audited nearly like you were.
He didn't even say it right. I said it was the sign. The sign was the thing that was fucked up. Like, and they didn't change it from it was still the old LLC. They just left it.
I would guess not.
So how many daycares are there in Minneapolis we think are fraudulent right now? Mr. Shirley, any idea? Are the amount of money total? You get any idea on that?
Well, they've frozen over $185 million, and not a single business has been able to prove that they're a legitimate business yet.
It's 185 million for sure that we know. Mr. Dexter, I got a question for you. What common patterns or warning signs usually indicate that the provider or the program may be committing fraud?
Here's the thing about it. It's a drop in the drop in the bag. Like, you keep getting Rickyism, bro. It's a drop in the hat, though. It's fucking fucked up. Like, the amount of money they're complaining about right now is pennies compared to what the actual, like what's going on. Like, what's the GDP of the state and shit? Like,
As you were doing your investigations and 28 years of experience, what are some of the indicators that you see that maybe that should be a telltale sign or a red flag that there's fraud there?
Well, one of the immediate signs that we saw when we would go out to first look at the location is where that was located. A lot of times they were located in commercial areas, and I'm not talking like strip malls or anything like that. I'm talking about like industrial areas where you wouldn't typically find
like, no one would have thought that was a grow op or something.
Healthcare
Like,
center.
come on, dude. The cops should have.
We would notice
that
that there was no play area, and if there was any play equipment, it was bare minimum. Now, there was an exception that if there was a playground area within a very short walking distance, that would count. But a lot of times we didn't see that. But the most glaring thing was that when we watched the centers, you know, we would sit and watch it for a couple of days before we even put up surveillance cameras. We would watch, and we would see little to no children present. If anything, there would be a few kids.
As you begin to blow the...
This is like watching paint dry. I'm not watching this anymore. I'm fuck this. Okay, I'm probably gonna cut it right here. There's not much being said. This is all propaganda. I don't know what laws they're gonna pass. I'll even skim to the end, but if I don't add anything, you know there's nothing there. Okay, bye.